like I'm putting chemicals in the water and turning the frickin' frogs gay. Wait, what, we're live? Oh, we're live. Oh, okay. Good morning. Happy Monday. It's the 19th of June. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad to have you here. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's give it up to all the fathers out there, all the awesome dads, all the Giga Chads. I hope you had a good weekend and you got to spend some time with the people that you care about. And happy belated Father's Day to all the awesome dads out there who didn't get to hear it. I spent a nice weekend with the wife. We went to do a little float trip on Saturday with some friends, and then on Sunday we drove out to the family farm in Peculiar and spent some time with Dad, had some delicious burgers, and just enjoyed his company, and that was very nice. So best wishes to all the fathers out there. We appreciate you very much, and we couldn't do it without you. We appreciate all the dads out there. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about this morning. Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tag team and dogpiled on a vaccine scientist who says he was stalked at his house after a debate went viral online when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Rogan challenged Dr. Peter Hotez, who is a vaccine scientist, to a public debate, which Peter Hotez has been refusing. He says he's used to getting attacks from anti-vaccine lobbyists, but the attacks are now coming from Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, Twitter's most influential users. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be on the other side of that one. But you know what? I'm going to do what I do always today and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, no matter what the vaccine scientists have to say or what the vaccine skeptics have to say this morning. We're going to go through a bunch of clips that I've pulled from that conversation between Robert Kennedy and Joe Rogan. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the claims that have been made in the past by Joe Rogan and by this Peter Hotez character. We're going to talk about the concept of might versus right, and it should be an excellent discussion this morning. As usual, you're going to get my pure, unvarnished opinion about these things, and I don't care who I offend. I know that picking sides on this issue is the best way to gain popularity, and I know that the side that I'm on, which is typically tends to be the right, are the anti-vaccine skeptics, but I don't always take their side in these things. And I did do some research to put together some of the claims that were made. I put some of the research together on some of the claims that are being made on both sides of these things, and found that both sides have good points. Oh, come to think of it, sometimes the truth is somewhere between the big pharma people and the big homeopathic dick pill people. So, yeah, it sounds like a bad joke, but a renowned medical expert, a comedian, a billionaire, and a Kennedy are all embroiled in a bizarre Twitter exchange about COVID vaccines, sparked a little bit by Elon Musk himself. We're going to talk about that this morning ad infinitum, ad nauseum, until you are truly nauseated. And we'll hear from John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. He's usually got a pretty level head about these things. This morning at 7:30 a.m. on this topic, we'll get where he stands on this debate, and we will basically just beat this topic to death this morning. If you like what you hear today, make sure you click that like button and send us a text if you'd like. You can text the show today to have your voice heard on the Wake Up America show. We are trying to wake up America after all, at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Alternatively, you can also send us a super chat over on YouTube to guarantee that your message will be read on air. It's going to be a good show today. Let's see what else we got on the docket for you. At 8 a.m. today, China is collapsing despite the hopes of so many central planners in the United States who have been predicting the death of the West and an era of centralized control and world leadership by China. China is all but collapsing. I've got a whole list of resources here to share with you today at 8 a.m. to talk about the paper tiger that is China. And some of the conversation will be centered around that before I move on to the sort of weird situation between Mike Pence and Donald Trump. I think that we really haven't analyzed the weirdness factor that much of a former vice president running against his former president in the primary in the same party. We'll talk about that this morning at 8:30 today with our friend Dominic Izzo from Rants of Izzo. We'd love to hear from you today. Again, make sure you're dropping likes and comments on whichever stream that you're watching us on this morning. If you like what you're hearing, you got to click that like button so that we can get out in more people's feeds. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget that YouTube has like a chat filter, and that there's two different types of chat filtering that you can do if you're a viewer. One is top messages, and the second is all messages. So if you would like to see all of the messages that are being dropped in YouTube, make sure that you do that. Click to change that message filter to all messages. If you're watching us on Rumble this morning, make sure that you drop a like. We'd love to hear from you all today. Fed Up Kentuckian is there with Kermode Bear, as well as Steffi P for Liberty, my lovely, beautiful, smoking hot, sexy libertarian wife. Good morning, Steffi. I miss you already. So we'll hear from Dominic Izzo today at 8:30 about why Mike Pence says that Donald Trump may ditch conservatives. And we'll talk. I've got an interview that Mike Pence did over the weekend on the Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, which was really odd. I guess that rhymes. We'll talk about that this morning, and I'll play that clip for you today. It's going to be an interesting show. If there are any topics that you think the Wake Up America should cover that we missed, I want to make sure that we get everything. So I will be monitoring that text line, which you can send, again, a text at 573 319 1586. That's 573 319 1586. Looking forward to hearing from you all this morning. And again, we do try and cater to our fans. So make sure that you cater to us back. Just hit that like button. All right, it's time for us to take a look at this clip. So Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are all on the attack against vaccine expert Dr. Peter Hotez. Dr. Peter Hotez, for those people who don't know, he has been on the Joe Rogan Experience before. He is the dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine and professor of pediatrics and molecular virology and microbiology at Baylor College of Medicine. That is quite a title. He authored the 2018 book, Vaccines Did Not Cause Rachel's Autism: My Journey as a Vaccine Scientist, Pediatrician, and Autism Dad. Now, see, that is fascinating, too, because quite frequently you see the parents of autistic children going the other way. For example, the girl, our friend, that Liberty chick who wears the really tight yoga pants and likes to show her butt on Instagram, we're friends, so I can make jokes like that. She went the other way, and she has a child with autism, but she has decided that the vaccines do cause autism. However, she was not a vaccine scientist, but she does have a tasty booty. I will say that. Sorry, Stephanie. Just gonna own it. So, I know you're laughing. Dr. Hotez on Saturday tweeted a link to a Vice article titled "Spotify has stopped even sort of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation," which highlighted the podcast host and stand-up comedian Joe Rogan's 3-hour interview that he did with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s claims, many of them are very, I'm skeptical of, but some of them I did actually confirm. So why don't we just go ahead and hear from them from their mouths first of what they had to say this morning. Now, I've got this first clip that I'm going to go through, which I want to go through and show you what I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was potentially right about. Let's take a listen to this little clip right here where he's talking about the use of atrazine. Now, keep in mind that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an environmental lawyer, which of course means that he's big on, green initiatives and things like that. So what he's talking about here specifically is an herbicide and its use in the United States, and what some of the effects of one of the chemicals in that herbicide may have. Take a listen to this.
Tyler, I think, and that might be his first or second name. But they took atrazine and they put it in a tank with 40 frogs for 3 years. They put it below the exposure levels that EPA considers acceptable to humans. And 30 of those frogs, they were all male frogs, and they were double Z, male frogs, so they were super males. And 30 of those frogs were chemically castrated. 4 of them turned into females and produce fertile eggs.
Okay, pause there. So That's the first claim that was made by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that I want to take on here because first of all, because everybody laughs because of the famous Alex Jones clip where he's like, "I don't like them putting chemicals in the water and turning the frickin' frogs gay." So I did spend some time doing some research on this claim made by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and it turns out that he is actually correct. So this is true. Scientific studies have been conducted to determine the effects of atrazine on amphibians, including frogs. But what is atrazine? So, this is a chemical commonly used in agriculture, and several studies have suggested that exposure to atrazine can lead to various reproductive abnormalities in amphibians, including changes in sex ratios and the development of hermaphroditic individuals. One of the notable studies of this that showed this was conducted by Tyrone Hayes. He's a biologist at the University of California, Berkeley. They exposed African frogs to atrazine at environmentally relevant levels. So they observed that male frogs exposed to atrazine at certain concentrations developed into hermaphrodites, possessing both male and female organs. And these findings were published in the Journal of Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2002. Now, I know that whenever I speak about an issue such as vaccines or chemicals or big pharma or things like that, these are the kinds of topics that big tech doesn't want people like me to talk about. But I would like to say for all of the potential censors who might be watching the show this morning and looking for an opportunity to demonetize this podcast or to shut down what I'm saying, I'd like to offer you an important caveat and remind you that I am an award-winning broadcaster, and the award that I received in for my excellence in broadcasting was gifted to me as a result of my coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic, which involved dozens to possibly hundreds of hours of conversations with public health officials here in the state of Missouri. And those public health officials, of whom many times I was very skeptical of, decided to grant me the Excellence in Media Award specifically for my coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic, which included sometimes skeptical coverage of the vaccines and of the public health measures that were taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I just want to remind you that if you decide to censor this podcast or demonetize this podcast because you don't like what I'm saying this morning, just remember that public health officials here in the state of Missouri, of whom many are, and if not most, are actual medical professionals, decided to grant me an actual award for my coverage of issues exactly like the one that we're talking about this morning. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Um, so let's go through some of these claims here. So the atrazine question, the question of atrazine is one that there's a larger question here because we're talking about herbicides. Does atrazine absolutely need to be used in fertilizers? We don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it's something that needs to be removed and studied more. As a matter of fact, it has been studied more, but the effects of atrazine on humans is a subject of ongoing scientific research and debate. So there hasn't been any positive conclusions whether or not these kinds of impacts from on frogs are transferable to humans. Because guess what? Humans are not amphibians. I know it sounds crazy, right? But humans are not amphibians. So, some epidemiological studies have suggested a possible association between atrazine exposure and adverse health outcomes in humans, including risks of certain cancers, reproductive issues, and developmental abnormalities. Okay, so let's say, for example, that in this situation for atrazine, that the people who are anti-atrazine, the use of atrazine, are correct. I'm reminded of a quote from Dr. Thomas Sowell when he was talking about the polio vaccine. And he talked about Thomas Sowell actually came out and said, there are no solutions in the world, only trade offs. And this was in a discussion, probably one of his finest discussions, with the former president of Fox News, Roger Ailes, who passed away a few years ago. where Thomas Sowell was talking about how there are some people who are harmed by polio vaccines, and he says that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. So the trade-off in having a vaccine against polio is that some people will have adverse effects from the vaccine of polio. So my question would be, and this is something that is yet to be determined, you can make up your own mind on this one, because it's not there is no hard scientific rational basis to come to a justifiable conclusion. So you'll have to do that on your own. But I wonder if the negative adverse effects of atrazine are outweighed by the capability for us to be able to grow crops and maintain much higher population, right? So in that situation, in that suggestion, it would be a trade-off. Are the number of people who contract cancer and who become let's say that they do become hermaphroditic, is the number of people who are exposed to atrazine and receive adverse effects, is it greater or less than the number of people who die from starvation, right? And the inability to produce enough food to sustain a population. Because here in the United States, we have the luxury of being able to make decisions on herbicides like that in order to protect our health. But in some other countries, they may not have those exact same luxuries. All right, so I've got a lot more to say about this subject, and I've got more clips, but I do have to go take a brief commercial break because I had some Buffalo Wild Wings last night, and they're not agreeing with me this morning. I'll be right back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level.
They are able to dictate content on television, so they can dictate content on the, on the local
and on
news.
YouTube.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's a terrifying thing, and it's so deeply interwoven. The question that I would have to you is like, how do you untangle that?
You do one of these things at a time, I'm going to go in there and do it. I'm going to issue an executive order on day one saying there's no more advertising on TV. Now, FDA needs to implement that through the regulatory process, but I also know how the regulatory process works, and I know how to hasten it. I know how to make it work faster for the American people. So, I'm looking forward to doing this. I'm looking forward to telling FDA you're not taking pharma money anymore.
That's interesting. All right. So good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. That's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the Joe Rogan show talking about how, as president of the United States, this is how he would end the corrupt financial entanglements between the pharmaceutical companies and the regulatory agencies. Certainly, libertarians have been calling out for years the problem of the relationship between big business and big government. Of course, the FDA, in libertarians' eyes, is the problem, because once the big business companies are paying off agents of the FDA and agents of the government to be able to make approvals, then of course big government is used as a hammer against those who might disagree. Of course, the question here is that it is of processes and of whether or not the president of the United States, in issuing an order through the FDA to tell them that that pharmaceutical companies are not allowed to advertise on television, is the proper process by which we make laws in this country. And of course, for those of us who are still adherents to the Constitution, that's actually not how we make laws in this country, unless you go to the First Church of Joe Biden and Donald Trump on bump stocks and Joe Biden on, everything else when it comes to making executive orders. Presidents love to issue executive orders that have the impact of law, but while it may sound like something that we agree with, we should still respect the proper constitutional processes of lawmaking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, though, because on one hand, I think that it's true that corporations should be allowed to advertise their products on television, but he's sort of conflating that with the FDA, and the FDA possibly being bankrolled by big pharma, which itself then would be the corruption. So on one hand, let's separate these things out. Should a corporation be allowed to advertise on television? Sure. Are you going to be allowed to talk smack about your sponsor on TV? No, you're not. And that is a question of journalism and integrity and ethics in journalism that we have to ask ourselves, and we do need a public debate on. But when it comes to the FDA, the libertarian position on the FDA is to abolish the FDA. And I know a lot of libertarians have stars in their eyes about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and they think, oh, he's going to go in there and do all this good. But to me, it sounds as if he's going to be taking the same kind of tack that most Democrats are. It's just going to be more big government in your face. What do you think about that? All right, I'm going to go get John Miltimore. He is the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, and he is going to weigh in on this one. I'm not going to take the full, long commercial break. I'm just going to go get John on the line. We'll be right back. I want to hear his take on this debate about COVID, vaccines, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Elon Musk, and Joe Rogan, and Dr. Peter Hotez. We're going to talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Hope you had a happy weekend and a great Father's Day. Joining us now is the man who is also a father. John Miltimore is the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. John, hope you had a happy Father's Day.
Hey, had a great Father's Day. Ready to in a great vacation. I was out all last week, but happy to be back in the saddle today.
Good. So I imagine you probably caught up on the debate between, I guess we call it an internet debate, a Twitter fight between Dr. Peter Hotez, a vaccine scientist, and big conspiracy, if we will. Because if one side's big pharma, then the other side's big conspiracy. Let's not act as if there isn't a lot of money in promoting conspiracy theories online, because I promise you that those big homeopathic dick pills do pay. Uh, there is a lot of money in turning the frickin' frogs gay, but I did look up that study about the atrazine claims that were made, and it did show that there was some like defects in frogs from this chemical atrazine that they were talking about. But of course, amphibians aren't mammals, and so it might not necessarily apply to humans. John, what's your big picture on this whole debate between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and RFK and this Peter Hotez guy? I wouldn't want to be Peter Hotez, that's for sure.
No, you know, Hotez was getting at both barrels, and I knew who he was vaguely, right? Like I don't have cable news, so I really haven't been watching
Same.
this guy get marched out onto MSNBC and Fox News and everything. If you look at the amount of media this guy has done over the last couple of years, it's crazy. I watched some great Twitter clips. Apparently, he was one early on was warning about potential side effects with any mRNA vaccines. Suddenly he was singing a very different tune. I was digging in a little bit. It looks like he took a lot of money over the last few years from different institutions, pro-vaccine institutions. All of this was great entertainment on Twitter. Like I saw some people freaking out, like Elon has ruined Twitter. Like I'm not sticking around. I'm getting off. I was watching this debate and I found it very entertaining. It is troubling because you're right. We have these different camps in different worlds now. They're not speaking to each other. They're speaking past each other. And like for me, this is very simple. Like frog vaccines, like all this stuff. Like none of us can really speak to the vaccines. Like right, like we even during the pandemic, all of us had to make these tough choices. Do I get vaccinated? Will my family get vaccinated? We're trying to make the right choice. Didn't know really what that was. We should have the humility to say that. What troubled me is they didn't have the humility to say, you know what, we think this is the best thing for people to do. We encourage you to take it. Which, if there's a role for public health, it's that, right? For years, that's what public health did. They made recommendations. That wasn't enough, though. They had to force everyone to take this vaccine, and that's the backlash that we're seeing. That's when I think it does feel conspiracy theories. But let's not lie about this. There's a lot of money involved in this, and it is a kind of economic fascism when you can just make a product and then make people take your product. Like we actually don't have to, market it the way everyone else does. That you can just say, no, we have our product now. We're gonna make people take it. That's dangerous. And I think that's really at the bottom of all this. And the fact that people won't debate it, they like, oh, they're just conspiracy theories. We deserve a conversation about this. And maybe Rogan's the right platform for that. Maybe not. Maybe RFK Jr. is the right person to have that conversation. Maybe not. Like there's things, but all of this just it's all ad hominem. People just screaming at each other, conspiracy theorists, big pharma quack. There's a legitimate conversation to have on this front, but I don't think we're going to get that conversation.
I don't think so either. And that's my deepest concern here is that we really do need a public debate between these type of people on the question of vaccines. The issue, of course, is that people, when they make their judgments and analysis, they don't make judgments or analysis based on sound reasoning. They make their judgment or analysis based on who's more attractive, right? Like the thing that I'm seeing right now that's a pretty common trope is that, I can beat you up, therefore I'm right. People are like, Dr. Peter Hotez looks like this like schlubby guy. And it's common, especially during COVID-19, we would see these public health officials who were like gargantuan fat. I don't know, it was like the Danish public health minister, and she was like 380 pounds, great big orca fat. And then you'd see the conspiracy theorists are all these guys like Joe Rogan who are like beefed up and all that kind of stuff. They're like, who would you rather take public health, take health advice from? Well, is it okay if I don't take health advice from the government or from the guy who might be jacked up on roids? I mean, allegedly, right?
You have a valid point. Like when I saw Hotez, like it's almost like you couldn't have come up with a better villain, to be pushing something like he does versus RFK Jr. I gotta say, he looks good. I don't know how old that guy is, but I mean, he's looking very fit. He looks healthy. And so I guess it's no surprise that you see people, like who you got to take advice from,
Right. But
I
is he
did see some of those.
I mean, because the thing is like, these guys, like, it's not like they're going to reveal their, like, give you a blood test and all that kind of stuff. Like, before the debate, can we get like a blood sample to see if they're taking like human growth hormone or something,
Yeah, no, I did see some of those. I might have even retweeted some of those because it was so entertaining. But you're right. People need to determine for themselves about this, and that's all from the beginning. I think people needed the choice. There's a great Thomas Sowell quote, and he says, everybody wants to ask what's better. He said that's not the question. The question is who gets to choose. And that is what we need to be thinking about. Like the average person, we don't know. Like we're gonna, and I think if you go back a few years, we were gonna trust the officials on this and say, you know what, we think, this is probably I believe, in some will, some won't, but I believe this was the best route. Now, they've lost that public trust, and they've lost it because there's been a lot of lies told. And if you look at Hotez, this really bothered me. He's like, oh, I'm out there protecting people from misinformation. Like he's a warrior. He's one of those people that are going to protect us from misinformation, disinformation. He only looks at misinformation as the people that are against him, right? But you can go back, and I was kind of tweeting a lot of this in replies. Was this information when you have Walensky going on and saying if you get the vaccine you can't pass COVID? The government they spread more misinformation during this pandemic than anyone else, and they did it through media. And that's what we're looking at today, like government and media working together to say, no, we know what's true, and you better toe the line. And if you don't agree with us, this is why it is a breath of fresh air to have Elon Musk, because you don't have to worry about getting thrown in Twitter jail for putting out an opinion the CDC doesn't like. And this is really what this is about. I think this larger issue isn't about vaccines. It's a turf war. Elon Musk is really getting on the turf of the media, who said, "Oh, this is our job. We know what's right. We know what's true. We don't need Elon Musk or the conspiracy theorist Joe Rogan or any of these guys. We can tell you what's true because we have direct access to the government." It's almost like a monopoly on truth and information they think they have, and to me that's really dangerous and ugly.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're grateful to have you here. Make sure you click that like button if you're watching us and liking the content that you're hearing right now. I'm speaking to John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, and we're grateful for his time today. We're talking about the ganging up of Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. against vaccine scientist Peter Hotez. Now, the problem is that these nerds, these vaccine scientist types, like they don't want to debate. And I think I can understand why, because they would be publicly destroyed. But I miss the days when we actually had scientists who had the courage of their convictions. Somebody mentioned in my Twitter retweets this morning, Richard Dawkins is a perfect example of somebody who actually had the courage of his convictions and would go out there and debate, right? We don't see scientists going out there and doing that anymore. And it's honestly, it's not that hard to get up there on stage and fight for what you believe in. Now, I saw yesterday that there were some creeps who had showed up at this Hotez's guy house and were like screaming and throwing obscenities at him and doing all that since this all started, which is absolutely a terrible idea. But these guys, the government is terrible at making its argument in regards to vaccines. It actually, like you said, like he looks like the perfect supervillain, if you will. But why is it that they're so terrified of debating? I've debated conspiracy theorists all the time. Go out on podcasts. I was on Prison Planet like a month and a half ago, debunking all of the Kennedy assassination BS that now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is fanning the flames of again. And I've debated vaccines and 9/11 truth, and I've debated chemtrails and all this kind of stuff that people get obsessed with. You get some shit, people attack you for it, but as long as you're courageous and brave and you stand for what you believe in, you're going to win some people over to your side. Why can't the left do that?
No, it's a good question, and I do think there is something in this case. They understand that they don't have some of the facts on their side. But I will say it's not all scientists. In fact, I saw a number of scientists that kind of chimed in that are skeptical of what RFK Jr. is saying, and said, you know what? If Hotez doesn't want to debate, I'll come on and do it. And one of the people that did that was Vinay Prasad. And I got the chance to meet Prasad, I don't know, it was a year ago or a year and a half ago in DC. And it was a panel of scientists. I was one of the few, journalists, writers, people who wasn't a doctor on that panel. Prasad is incredibly impressive. Other people that were there were like, Dr. Robert Malone, Peter McCullough, some really, Prasad was not in the McCullough Malone camp, but he did look at a lot of this and said, this is dangerous, the way we're shutting down scientific debate. He wasn't as skeptical of any vaccines as they were, but he said we need to be having these debates. Let's have these public debates. I'd love to see Prasad go on there and debate RFK Jr. And I think Prasad could give RFK Jr. all he could handle. Like there's things that I think RFK Jr. says that I'm like, oh, I think he's right about vaccines there. There's some stuff I look at, I'm like, I'm not sure I believe this guy, right? I'm not sure maybe he doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. I would pay to watch that debate. And to your point, that's what we need to have. Let's have these robust discussions. As a country, that's what we did. Well, once, if you look back at how many people, we remember the Lincoln Douglas debates so famously, right? That was not a 30-minute debate. Those were like a tour of debates, and they were hours, and people would pour out like in a hot summer day and watch these guys, have these debates. That to me, that is democracy. Like a lot of people today, they use that phrase democracy. And I use it there, like a little tongue in cheek, but that is what it's supposed to be. Democracy isn't like a few people in a room deciding what everyone should be, what they should do, and it's participating in this process, and it's listening and being informed. And I think so many on the left they use that term democracy, but they don't really like democracy because who gets to choose in a democracy? When I look at it, it's about to me, it's liberty. It's people that get to choose. They get to make decisions over their own lives. That's not what our system looks like today. There's nothing in like what you have are a bunch of people in DC who want to run society through Washington DC, and I look at that as very dangerous.
There's a lot of red flags from a libertarian perspective about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Not just when it comes to let's leave the vaccine thing out of it. He's an environmental lawyer. One of the comments he made is that he would, as president, he would ban big pharma from being able to advertise on television by issuing an executive order to the FDA, which is par for the course for most presidents. But other comments that he's made about guns in the past lead me to believe that he's trying to tell a lot of people what they hear. But a lot of libertarians, I feel like, are kind of getting, intoxicated by the siren call of RFK Jr., which I think probably says a lot more about the state of the modern liberty movement than it does RFK Jr., doesn't it? Would you agree with me, John? I mean, is it that our standards have really gotten that low?
I think that's a big part of it. And then there's the other part that he could end up being spoiler, for Biden and things like that are probably an incentive there. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little excited about RFK Jr. because, I'm not all in on him. I'm not all in on anyone. I think you can kind of, the things you said, I think you could say that about any candidate, whether it's a Ron DeSantis, or if you looked far enough, you could probably see it in Tim Scott or Nikki Haley, Joe Biden, we know. I can't tell you much about who's the woman that ran last time. I forget her name right now.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Well, I'm thinking the Democrat, the one that was friends with Oprah.
The Democrat who ran as a woman who was friends with Oprah. I have no idea.
Yeah, you know which one? Marianne Williamson. That's what I think of.
Yeah. She's the hippie one,
Yeah. So my point is, with every one of these candidates, you can find certain authoritarian examples of things that are going to trouble libertarians, right? I see some of that with RFK. I am excited about what he's bringing. He's bringing a different kind of energy. He's poking at skeletons in the closet, like the CIA's games. Like I've been doing a little bit of this on my Substack, looking at. I have a piece coming out later this week on the Bobby Kennedy assassination. He believes the CIA was behind the death of his father. Now that's a pretty serious thing. Same with his uncle. And he went and visited Sirhan Sirhan in prison, had a long conversation with Sirhan Sirhan. These are one of these. I always considered it was a slam dunk that Bobby Kennedy was murdered by Sirhan Sirhan. I've been reading a couple of books, and like the coroner himself refused to say that Sirhan Sirhan was the killer because all the evidence points to a second gunman. That fact blew my mind. The fact that I didn't know that, I'm like, how didn't I know that? There's a lot of evidence that said there was another gunman. Like that was alarming to me. I'm like, I should know this, and I didn't. And so the fact that he's poking at things like that kind of excites me. Does he have some wacky ideas? I think he does, but he does seem to at least be driven by truth. He's pursuing that. Does he have some authoritarian instincts? Oh yeah, like we saw that in the way he won. Some of the free speech stuff, some of the climate stuff. I found deeply troubling. But to me, it goes back to what you say. We don't have a lot to work with. We don't know who the Libertarian nominee is going to be yet, but there's not a lot to work with. So the fact that we're getting a little excited over somebody who's kind of, speaking some truth and seems very anti-establishment, that doesn't surprise me.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. We're grateful to have you here at 7:47 a.m. Central Time. I'm speaking to our friend John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, and we're talking about the brouhaha between Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. against a vaccine scientist by the name of Dr. Peter Hotez. Now, Hotez, for his part, is he's lashing out online. He's fighting back, but he is not saying that he's going to go out and do a debate. We've already talked about the fact that we probably need to see one, but that we probably won't. So where does this all go? Where does this end, John? I mean, like more misinformation, more disinformation, more big pharma shilling on mainstream media, and more homeopathic dick pills on podcasts.
Yeah, where it goes from here, anyone can say. This is where, if there's something lacking on the right, you can say like the libertarian right or the conservative or whatever. The left by now would have had like 10 journalists looking at Hotez and saying, oh, like tying them to money. Conservatives, libertarians, we're not good at that. We don't have. There's some out there. I think Reason does really good journalism. I'd like to see them. Like, let's look at Hotez. Let's see where the money's been coming from. Like, let's start to look at this more closely.
John, I remember a lot of Reason people and a lot of people that got called out by Jeffrey Tucker lately. They jumped on board of the big government conspiracy during COVID-19. There were a lot of libertarians who were out there arguing in favor of, I guess I should use air quotes when I say libertarians, but arguing in favor of like vaccine mandates and lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there were a lot of people on our side that were turncoats for sure.
No, no question about it. And I think a lot of those organizations kind of like by 2021 they figured it out, right? Way too many didn't in 2020. But as far as just doing good journalism, like there's not enough being done by libertarians, by conservatives, getting better on that front. But that's what we need. Like let's do some really compelling hard journalism that looks at Hotez and can tie what he's doing to different. Because there's some of that out there. I've looked at that, like all the grants they're receiving, like who's behind the grant money. What else are they doing? Like, I think there's a story there to look at. If I was Hotez, I probably wouldn't want this kind of scrutiny. Because I think some of it is going to call into question his objectivity on this and why he became this mouthpiece for, like, it's a little, listeners I'm sure have seen some of the videos, like how he's telling these little kids that they must be vaccinated and everything. And people are like, well, you look at the risk of children to COVID, and they want to pretend there's no potential injuries and all this. And why did he become this mouthpiece? I'm just genuinely curious. Doesn't mean he's wrong about everything, but there's a lot of there's something there that we need to take a much closer look at. I just hope that is the next step, because here we're not going to get that debate. He's not going to come out and debate. They might find somebody else that can debate his side of things. Like I said, a Prasad would be great. I'd pay to watch that. But just a final point, I do think it's because they know they don't have the right answers to some of these questions that are going to come up.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if you went back in my Twitter timeline and saw some of my debates with libertarians on the issue of masks and the efficacy of masks, if those tweets still exist on the other side, or if maybe they've been deleted by now. John Miltimore, anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners this Monday before we let you go?
Not really. Just happy to be back on. Like I said, I was off all week, so I'm back in the saddle. Check out our stuff at fee.org. My own Substack is jjmilt@gmail.com on Substack. It's called The Take. I'm almost got 1,000 followers now, so if you're my 1,000 follower, I'll make sure to send you a set of steak knives or something. I'm joking.
A set of steak knives. That's John Miltimore, managing editor of fee.org. We appreciate you very much. Thanks so much for coming on, John. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, AP. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Have a good one.
I hope this wakes people up to the value of vaccines, too. There's so many wackos out there that think that vaccines are, a scam, or they're dangerous, or there's so many people out there that won't vaccinate their children.
I know. I think that's really an important point, that, we got to get this idea. These vaccines can be life-saving. If we had one right now, think how different this situation would be in we're in right now.
It would be radically different. But
Very
then
radical.
you see the measles making a comeback and directly attributed to a lack of vaccines.
So, I mean, I think that's, I have to say, and, I'm already on this show, so I'm not trying to thank you for what you do say about vaccines, because people listen to you, and we need every positive voice, because we have so many crazy voices out there right now
So many people are paranoid and delusional, and they want it all to be a conspiracy. There's been an amazing medical innovation in human culture, and that's vaccines.
Oh boy, that's Joe Rogan there talking about lovely, lovely vaccines. He likes them very much, apparently. You bet you didn't know that I had that clip ready to go. All triggered. Talk about triggered. We'll be right back with more of this discussion when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
For young boys in particular, there's an adverse risk associated with the vaccine. It's like a 2 to 4-fold increase in the instances of myocarditis.
Yes, but you know what?
Hospitalization.
You know that there's an
COVID.
increased risk of myocarditis among that age cohort from getting COVID as well, which exceeds the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
I don't think that's true. I don't think
It
it's
is.
true. No. I don't think it's true that there's an increased risk of myocarditis from people catching COVID that are young versus increased risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
No, there is. There's both.
Well, let's look that up because I don't think that's true. Myocarditis more common after COVID-19 infection than vaccination. But is this with children? Yeah, we're talking about young people.
Men and boys aged under 30 after this is what it says here.
With children is the issue.
Well, no, we were talking about 15-year-olds.
Well, we're talking about young children.
Male
That's a
child,
child.
12 to 17.
12 to 17, more likely to develop myocarditis within 3 months of catching COVID at a rate of 450 cases per million infection. This compares to 67 cases of myocarditis per million at the same time.
Oh, let's play that
We're
back.
talking about young children.
Male
That's a
child,
child.
12 to 17.
12 to 17, more likely to develop myocarditis within 3 months of catching COVID at a rate of 450 cases per million infection. This compares to 67 cases of.
So out of 1 million infections, versus the vaccine, 450 people in that age group developed myocarditis versus 67 from the vaccine. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Here we don't confirm anybody's biases, but our own Wake Up America show likes to find the truth in the mushy middle, somewhere in between the two major groups of people who are fighting for attention on this issue. I'm glad to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show. Make sure you smash that like button. I like to help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty this morning. Very briefly, I want to remind everybody, if you are interested in seeing some real journalism, I plan on doing some. I'm going to be heading down to Athens, Tennessee, to do a documentary about the Battle of Athens. If you haven't heard, I am going to be going down for a festival that's occurring that's a commemorative event for the Battle of Athens. And I need your help. Bleed American, the Battle of Athens, a documentary, is going to do interviews with local officials, people who are related to those who were involved in the Battle of Athens. It's a little-known story about World War II veterans who, when they got back from fighting for democracy overseas, realized that they had lost it here at home. It's about election fraud, political violence, and about a victory by World War II veterans, the first successful armed rebellion in the United States since the American Revolution. Looks like I got some hiccups. Boy, what do you do when you get hiccups on a talk show? Excuse me. One of the most compelling and dramatic but least studied events in American history. It's the vaccines. The Battle of Athens documentary will travel to McMinn County in Tennessee for the event on July 29th to gather interviews and primary sources from the festival. We're going to attempt to get a budget of $10,000, to start the project. And if successful, then we will attempt to raise $200K so we can afford to recreate battle scenes from the actors, sets, weapons, and sound stages. Help us to bring more attention to a dramatic and exciting event from American history by donating to the Bleed American Battle of Athens documentary crowdfunding campaign. I need $10,000 to make this happen, and I need your support. We've already raised $1,893. Thank you to all of our donors. Please do kick in a little bit today to the documentary to help us to make that happen. We'd be super grateful for that. Chicky Mary says, put your head between your knees and slowly swallow some water. Well, I don't know if I'm flexible enough for that, and I don't have any water, but I do have some coffee. I'm just going to have to suffer. All right. Let's get back to the news. We're talking about a debate between Joe Rogan, Peter Hotez, and RFK. Excuse me. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on the news today. You can, send us a text at 573 319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. You can share your thoughts with us there. I do want to play another clip. I might as well because I can't talk anyway right now. From when Dr. Hotez was actually on Joe Rogan's show. Take a listen.
Do you take care of your immune system in other ways? Do you take probiotics? Are you cautious about your diet?
I'm not as cautious about my diet as I should be. I'm a junk foodaholic, actually.
Well, that seems like a terrible thing for your health.
It is a terrible thing for my health and something my wife is working on.
But that seems ridiculous for someone who works with health.
Yeah.
What's going on with you, man?
Sometimes, man, I just don't get it right.
How often?
What?
How often?
How often do I steal a bag of chips or something like that?
How often do you eat garbage?
I don't know.
Every day,
No, hopefully not every day, but
Hopefully not every day.
Yeah, maybe a couple of times a week. You know. That's what with Rachel, my daughter with autism. That's like our thing is to go to the it's called the burger joint or to Shake Shack to get a cheeseburger. We'll sneak some fries. So.
So you
living large, we call it.
Like that mouth pleasure so much, you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of
I
health.
am, yeah. I have to concede that's the case.
Well, there's, I don't have to tell you, but there's a large body of data that connects poor diet to a host of diseases.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a crazy decision for a guy in your line of work.
There you go. Sometimes it's not all brain. It's something else.
But
I can beat you up. Therefore, you are wrong about vaccines.
If you ate healthy food, the thing is your body starts craving healthy food. You start feeling
no
positive
question.
results.
No question about it.
Do you take vitamins?
I don't take vitamins.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think they do. I don't think they're needed because most in the American.
Hold up.
He's right. You don't need to take vitamins. He's right about that. If you do eat healthy, then you get all your vitamins from foods, and some vitamins actually aren't good for you because they give you too much of something that you don't need, especially for people who have like autoimmune diseases or things like that.
You don't think they're needed while you're eating junk food?
Well, hopefully I'm not only eating junk food.
Okay,
right?
but there's a
if you're only eating junk food, then you probably do need
large
some vitamins.
Body of clinical research on the efficacy of vitamins, especially vitamins D, vitamins B.
I have taken vitamin D for periods, on the recommendation of my internist. Yeah.
What about essential fatty acids, which are great for your brain, fish oil?
Right, so he's grilling the doctor for promoting vaccines while disregarding exercise, vitamins, and a healthy diet. And Joe makes a good point there that was one of the big things during the pandemic that I was very skeptical of was he had all these vaccine scientists who were like, oh, well, we just, they would downplay exercise and getting fresh air and the importance of eating healthy while they were always out there promoting vaccines. They saw that as secondary. Anyways, I just think it's ridiculous. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to get right back to that topic, but I want to remind you that one of the best ways to protect your financial health is by investing in gold and silver. I'm going to ask you today to visit my friends at Lear Capital at LearAustin.com. Today is the day to reach out to Lear Capital and to find out more about how to protect your financial security, not just your physical health, but also your financial health. You see, gold is the one thing that they aren't making more of. Well, there's other things that they're not making more of, like military surplus firearms, but don't buy those because honestly, I'm trying to get those prices to go back down. Not going to happen. Make sure that you visit Lear Capital today to get a free gold and silver information packet at LearAustin.com. That's LearAustin.com. I saw the story a couple of days ago that Korean convenience stores have started selling gold bars in vending machines. I don't recommend buying a gold bar from a vending machine. Here's what I recommend you do. Call my friends at Lear Capital at 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. Call them today. Find out about how to put a portion of your retirement into hard metals. LearAustin.com. They'll send you a free information packet. Gold is golden, says Sarah Nichols. Yes, it is. Every person who signs up for a free gold and silver information packet for the Austin Peterson Wake Up America show is helping to support us, to keep us going and rocking and rolling so that we can continue to fight for economic freedom and personal liberty. So help us out today and help yourself out as well by visiting LearAustin.com. LearAustin.com to protect your financial health. We appreciate you very much. Let's check the text messages today. You can send one to us at 573-319-1586. Again, the text line is open today at 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on this or any other of topics that you think that we might be missing. I saw that our friend Fed Up Kentuckian was telling us about the dog pile on against Thomas Massie over the weekend by MAGA forces who were attacking Thomas Massie for refusing to vote for censure and fine for Adam Schiff, which I thought was interesting because he said that he would vote for a censure, but he thinks that the fine goes beyond the power of Congress. But of course, MAGA people and people who want, power at any cost, they don't care about that. They just want to see their enemies punished, and they don't care about the Constitution or proper processes or the proper role of any of the three branches of government, just like the Democrats don't. We're plagued by idiots in this country. Sorry. Tolly Owens over in the live stream says, I've tried so many different multivitamins thinking the more good ingredients, the better, but I always felt like crap. Now I only take one of the few nutrients specific to women. Much better. Tolly, very smart. There you are. I thought that taking a multivitamin actually was going to be something that would be good for me because it's like, oh, it's a multivitamin, take your vitamins. And my doctor actually came back and said, your protein, your potassium levels are abnormally high, and you really shouldn't be taking those kinds of multivitamins because it's not good for you, right? If you're going to be taking vitamins, you need to be taking ones that are specifically tailored to yourself or ones that your doctor has actually recommended to you, right? But just taking a multivitamin thinking it's going to make you feel better is not the case. Most of your vitamins, if not all of your vitamins, you're going to get through the healthy foods that you're eating. If you're like me yesterday in the car on the way to my dad's house, eating a honey bun that was 700 calories for one honey bun, you're not going to get the vitamins that you need there. Thankfully, we did eat some delicious cheeseburgers. So I'm sure there was plenty of protein and healthy vitamins in the cheeseburger, right? Now, I did put some onions on it, so that counts as a vegetable, right? And then later we had Buffalo Wild Wings. So there's got to be like some proper vitamins in chicken wings, right? Chicken wings? Aren't those healthy? And I tell you what, I always get the spicy wings, and I'll tell you the next day I regret it. But you know what? I don't regret it when I'm eating it. That is why when it comes to spicy food, the spicy food should at least taste good the first time because you're going to pay for it the next day. So what I don't understand are people who eat crappy spicy food. So like I used to eat the Chick-fil-A spicy sandwiches. And I loved the spicy chicken sandwiches. Now I taste the Chick-fil-A sandwiches and they just don't taste as good as they used to. And a lot of these like spicy, so we used to like buy the spicy chicken fillets in the bag that were frozen, and then you like throw them in the air fryer and heat them up and turn them into sandwiches at home. But some things like that are spicy just like don't taste good. They're just hot for the sake of being hot, but they don't have good flavor. But Buffalo Wild Wings mango habanero definitely are hot and also have really good flavor. So it's actually worth it. Like it's like eating Indian food where it's like delicious Indian food and you're like, oh, this is good. You drink the Taj Mahal beer. You're very happy. But then the next day you suffer for it. Okay, fine. You're going to suffer for it the next day, but at least the food's going to taste good. The worst is when you like eat spicy food that doesn't taste good. And then the next day you suffer as well. And that's just when you really are having a bad day. A lot of multivitamins make me sick to the stomach, says Doug H. Yes, I get it. John says taking the right combination of vitamins has been a game changer for me. Good for you, John, that you nailed down the proper vitamins for yourself, brother. I love seeing that flintlock next to your name, bro. That means that you are definitely high up in the hierarchy for sure. Cheeky Mare says, I love mango. I do too. Everybody... Mango habanero is just, Stephanie couldn't do it yesterday. She's like, it's too hot. She's like, she take a bite and then it tastes good. And then like later she's like suffering. And she's like, that just is so much pain. And then I can't taste anything. She was so sweet though. At least she tried. Spicy garlic wingies at Buffalo Wild Wings, Chris Morrill. Man, have you seen the prices for those things? Good God, those things are expensive. All right. I had some clips of Mike Pence that I was going to pull up because I am going to speak to Dominic Izzo about that here in just a few minutes. I would love to hear your thoughts today on the news and what you think we should be covering again at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I think I didn't queue up the Mike Pence. I don't have a producer, so I just got to rely on there we go. Mike Pence called out by Chuck Todd. Okay. Yeah, we're not there yet, actually. Okay, hold on. We still got a few minutes. I will play this clip here in just a moment. But before I do, actually, I wanted to share with you this other story that I found, which I thought was compelling. The Chinese nightmare. This was posted last night. This was posted on 2 days ago, on Twitter about the Chinese nightmares. There's an interesting thread that I found on Twitter that I wanted to share with you because there's been so much fear mongering on China. My friend Camelia Peterson shared this with us. Thank you, Camelia. And I found this to be compelling. I thought I'd share it with you. She says there are still conservatives and some NYT, New York Times, progressives who fear or dream that China's authoritarianism is going to outcompete the West economically and bring in a century of centralized control. She writes, "This isn't going to happen. China is all but collapsing." And she includes some nice illustrations of that. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you so you can see it. Bada bing, bada boom. Beautiful. There's China for you. Looks like Detroit. No offense. Thanks to the one-child policy, China has among the worst demographics of any country in the world. According to official numbers, China's population is on track to decline from 1.4 billion to 700 million by century's end, halving. But experts who track leaks and other metrics think that it is even worse than the CCP's official numbers suggest. They suspect that Chinese population growth is already negative and could drop below 1 billion as early as 2050. Economists and the Better China watchers have known this was coming and known China cannot sustain its retired population with so few workers and so little wealth. So it's been a question since before 2008. Will China get old before it gets rich? Bearing some insane military play involving not just Taiwan, but old school imperial conquest of large chunks of Southeast Asia, there's no real way for China to get around this apocalyptic societal problem, and even that probably wouldn't be enough. 30% of China's economy is tied up in producing one good. 30% of their economy. What is it? Real estate. And that should be confusing. How can an economy with a shrinking population be that dependent on real estate? Well, supply and demand. Demand is shrinking, so the prices must be falling. Okay, but we've all seen these photos of China's ghost cities. Let me pull this up for you, actually, and bring it down. Go down to this. Take a look at these cities here. These are cities in China. It reminds me very much of North Korea, right? These are command economies where they overproduce these kinds of apartment complexes and things like that in order to meet the Keynesian demand. What is the Keynesian demand? Well, the Keynesian demand is that more stimulus spending by government is going to create more jobs, and in creating jobs to create apartment complexes, then you're thereby stimulating the supply, but the demand side of things. But the supply side of things is overstimulated, and there's not enough demand to meet it. She says, we've all seen photos of China's ghost cities, hundreds of cities with thousands of massive housing complexes, almost all sitting empty. People assume the CCP is paying to build these as a make-work scheme, but the truth is vastly, vastly darker. They're all sold. The Chinese have the near the highest savings rate in the world, but they don't trust the stock or bond market because there's no transparency. So all their savings they pour into real estate. As a result, China has the most expensive real estate in the world by income. Despite a GDP of $10,000 per person, that's U.S. money, condos in China average $200,000 in most cities and creep towards the million mark in others. Parents mortgage their homes to help make their kids' down payment. That's insane. Many of the second and third condos that Chinese investors buy never get finished. Since living in a condo throws off the feng shui for future inhabitants, leaving it unfinished actually improves its speculative value, or so they claim. It certainly hasn't stopped purchases. If this sounds like the worst housing bubble ever, it is. The raw force of the demographic decline will inevitably destroy this bubble. Evergrande, Ariana Grande, was a huge scandal, but now citizens are striking and refusing to pay mortgages on condos that stopped mid-build. China doesn't have a meaningful social security system. They can't afford it. Horrible poverty exists near those shiny towers. Third world conditions are everywhere, and that's what people will be reduced back to. The world once manufactured in the Rust Belt, too. You can already find stories of homeless encampments and Mongolian nomads moving into the carcasses of these unfinished ghost cities. Soon, millions living off well under $10,000 a year will wonder that their unfinished apartments once cost hundreds of thousands. That is from our friend Catgirl Kulak from Kulak over on Twitter, which I thought was a really good discussion. Man, I had more clips. What do you say? Oh, this one. You know what? Let's play. This is a different topic. We're going to move from this, and then we'll go over to Dominic Izzo is going to join us this morning at 8:30 a.m. I'm really excited to have him on. He's an awesome guest. And we're going to talk to him about the weirdness of Mike Pence running against Donald Trump. But I saw this clip yesterday, and it just made me laugh. NBC worries that teachers are quitting due to an LGBT agenda backlash. Take a listen to this.
Across the country, teachers are calling it quits, teeing up a shortage. But besides low pay and burnout, there's now something else pushing them to leave the jobs they love. Antonia Hilton reports.
Teacher Emily Ramser. On the same day that high school English teacher Emily Ramser won an award for being an outstanding Texas educator, she stood in front of the Grapevine Colleyville School District to tell them why she was among dozens of staff members resigning this year.
This community has continuously harassed me for the past few years, to the point that there were days I didn't even want to be alive anymore, much less be a teacher. So I'm going to listen to what I am hearing from this community, which is that y'all don't want people like me, people who might be gay, to teach here.
School districts across the country are facing a teacher shortage, fueled by burnout and low pay. But in Texas, many blame politics. Last year, Ramser's district saw a 40% jump in resignations and retirements after new conservative school board members pushed to remove hundreds of books and restrict lessons about race and LGBTQ identities.
I've taught these kids for years to write and to grow their voices, and I'm not going to let my actions say something different.
Shut up, bitch. I don't want to hear it. You're supposed to be a teacher. Teach the kids reading, writing, and arithmetic. I'm sick and tired of hearing these teachers freaking out and sad and crying on TV that they can't talk to their kids about their vaginas, okay? For God's sakes, just shut up about your genitals and teach the kids reading, writing, and arithmetic. For the love of God, can I get an amen?
Ramser, who identifies as queer, says she was asked to
identifies as queer. So what? So you're straight? You're spicy straight.
change some
Okay,
of her
lady.
lessons and to remove classroom artwork and rainbow stickers. Then,
Good. Shut up, bitch. Take your rainbow stickers down and get the fuck
one
out.
afternoon last
Sorry,
year,
excuse my language.
a parent told a local news site that Ramser encouraged her child to become transgender by lending her a book called The Prince and the Dressmaker.
All I did was give a kid a book.
What went through your mind?
I was terrified. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think.
The mother who accused...
Dude, get out. You do not want this person teaching your child. You know what this is? What teaching has become? Teaching has become therapy for weenies. These teachers, they go into the profession and then they go into their classes, and the kids are supposed to be like the audience because nobody wants to listen to their stupid problems. Right? Nobody else wants to listen to them, and they won't go get proper therapy. So they use these kids as therapy because nobody else wants to listen to their problems. And you can understand why, for God's sakes. Oh, I tried to give a book and I was terrified. Shut up, bitch. All right, let's get this clip from Mike Pence getting called out by Chuck Todd, allegedly called out by Chuck Todd. Who you got here between Chuck Todd and Mike Pence? Who you voting for? Both running for president of the United States. I say Chuck Todd's on the schedule. He's running as well. No, but he's not really. But if it was between Mike Pence and Chuck Todd for president of the United States, who you voting for? Come on, do it. Pull the trigger. Gun to your head.
One more example of a two-tier justice system that we've been living through for 7 years. I mean, I have to tell you, after seeing Hillary Clinton given a pass
by your Justice Department,
by
your Justice Department. Ooh, ouch! Yikes!
Republic? No. Wait, no. Jeff Sessions had another U.S. attorney look into everything with the Clinton Foundation and didn't bring charges. This is a
Comey.
This was a Republican Justice Department.
In the run-up to the election, you know, Chuck.
I understand that, but you guys
I'm not
looked at it
correcting you on
again.
history. Hillary Clinton was given a pass, and then we went 2.5 years through a Russia investigation that we now know from the Durham report should have never been begun.
Actually, there was an Inspector General report that said there was no politics involved with this, that everything was a legitimate reason to investigate. Again, these are all Republican appointees that have done this.
Chuck, the independent counsel found that the investigation into Russian collusion should never have been initiated. And yet we lived through 2.5 years of a constant barrage on your network, on the cable network associated with you, and many of the other mainstream media suggesting that there was Russian collusion. We had
I gotta say, Mike Pence is looking fairly presidential here. What do you think?
public officials that said there was evidence of collusion. Never happened. And then I thought it was disgraceful the way big media and big tech essentially colluded to suppress the story of the Hunter Biden laptop in the run-up to the 2020 campaign when the FBI actually had the laptop and knew it was legitimate. And so, look, it's hard for me to believe that politics didn't play some role in the unprecedented decision to bring an indictment against the former president of the United States.
Here's Chuck Todd. He's like, let me cut you off here and just
States. But I want to be clear.
I understand that you take it
No
seriously.
one's above the law. And
But just remember that, like, that it was the Trump justice that like gave Hillary the pass because they could have prosecuted. Remember, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. But then that lock her up never happened. And then there was this other thing that never happened.
Build that wall. 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 Build that wall.
From now
Build
on,
that wall.
It's going to be America first, okay? America first.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me. Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady with a waistcoat.
Oh, God. At times like these, it helps to have something to be able to kill the pain. My friend John Burke over at Shell Shock CBD has got a great deal going on right now for you over at Shell Shock CBD. If you need something to help dull the pain, shellshockcbd.com is a great way to do it. Visit shellshockcbd.com today. Get yourself some Delta 8 if you really want to be locked into your couch and have a good time on the weekend. I highly endorse and recommend John Burke's products. And they are not homeopathic dick pills. They are a great product that I use. And honestly, my back is starting to feel a whole lot better thanks to this awesome freeze gel roll-on that they've got over there at shellshockcbd.com. Here's the thing. If you're skeptical of me, and you should be, and absolutely everybody should be, the good news is that this product that I am endorsing right now is available to you risk-free with a money-back guarantee. So here's the news. It's not like if you get the if you go and you get the vaccine from Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson or what have you. I think the Johnson & Johnson has been recalled. There's no money-back guarantee with that, but there is with Shell Shock CBD. So visit them today and get 10% off your Delta 8 gummies or your CBD products over there, your CBD roll-on, roll-out, CBD freeze roll-on. For 10% off with the code AP for Liberty. That's AP, the number 4, AP for Liberty. Get yourself some Shell Shock CBD. Cheeky Mare says this is good. She doesn't need dick pills. Yes, neither do I, but I do need my buddy John Burke's CBD roll-on, roll-out freeze gel. I think that this did have something to do with helping my back to feel better over the last couple of weeks. Also, the rest of me sitting in my chair and being a little bit lazier than I normally would be. Visit shellshockcbd.com to get some of these awesome gummies. I recommend the Fallout gummies for people who are looking for sleep aids. They've got the delicious bomb drops that taste like bomb pops as well. Honestly, I'll tell you, and I know that a lot of you guys are maybe more adventurous than I am. I'm still terrified of the Delta bar. I have not cracked open the Delta bar just yet. I've gotten into the gummies and the CBD freeze oil and the tinctures and all that, but honestly, the Delta bar is, to me, one day I might just take like a little bite out of the chocolate bar for like one of those Friday shows. But at that point, Stephanie's going to have to drive me home because these things have got like 40 milligrams in each bar. So make sure that you check the state that you live in. I think there are 8 states where Delta 8 is still not legal. So you'll have to check your local laws and regulations, but you should be able to get some in most of the parts of the United States. Get 10% off. Use that code AP4Liberty. That's AP the number 4, AP4Liberty with shellshockcbd.com. Support the show and support your back health if you've got a bad back like I do apparently now at shellshockcbd.com. All right, it's time for us to go and get Dominic Izzo. You know why? Because I want to talk to him about the weirdness of Mike Pence running against his former president. Isn't that odd? Like, you think that it is odd, right? Am I wrong? Am I right or am I wrong? What do you think? It is weird. Okay? I just think it's weird. Dominic Izzo is going to comment on that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender. I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience,
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Glad to have you here. Hope you had a wonderful Father's Day. I got to spend some time with my dad out in the farm in Peculiar, and all the awesome dads out there deserve a pat on the back, because without all the awesome dads out there, there would be nobody, because everybody had to have a dad, right? Joining us now was who some people call Daddy, Dominic Izzo, joining us right now, former police officer from the Chicago region, joining us now. Good morning, Dominic.
Well, it's Zaddy. It's Zaddy. You know, no
Zaddy,
kids,
Zazer,
never
Zaddy?
married. Zaddy is what I am. Correct.
Call her Zaddy. All right, we'll do that. Dominic, I was playing a clip earlier from Chuck Todd of MSNBC, and he was grilling Mike Pence about his presidential campaign. And I got to say, Mike Pence actually did a pretty good job pushing back against Chuck Todd. But Chuck Todd is not Donald Trump. How do you think Pence will fare in a debate against his former president?
Well, are you asking about the outcome or the actual debate itself? Because the outcome he won't stand a chance, because you're going to get the blind Trumpers end of story. Debate wise, I think he would do very well. I really do. I think he'd hold his own very well with Trump. Yeah, Chuck Todd. I mean, how hard is it for people to answer direct questions, right? Well, it was Republican administration. Yes, it was. You're right. I want somebody who's going to come up and not do the tit for tat. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, Hillary Clinton. Well, we know it, right? We know it. I want somebody who's going to who'd hold accountability, move forward, and then try to clean crap up. But I think in a debate, like if there was no audience and no audience reaction, all this, I think that, or no like aftermath of people being able to give their 2 cents to sway opinion of those who watched, I think Pence would actually do pretty decently against Trump.
Will Run Riot over on Rumble says that Mike Pence has the charisma of a plank of wood. That might be giving a little too much credit. You can
So
drop.
So cool.
Can I ask you something though, Dominic? Just personally, back in 2016, did you believe the whole lock her up? Did you believe in that? Like, did you think that was going to happen?
Didn't I tell you I believed in the QAnon crap?
Yeah,
but, of course I did.
I don't want to call you out for that because Dominic, I don't know if you're embarrassed by it or not.
You should be raking me over the coals for that every time you have me on, is what you should do.
I like to ease it. I don't want to scare you off before I start holding your ass to the fire, Dominic. Besides, we haven't tested Wing Chun versus karate just yet. But so then when Donald Trump becomes president and Hillary Clinton doesn't get locked up, was that kind of like was that an eye opener for you?
Oh yeah, yes and no. Because I knew it was petty, and then again, remember. Now I started always playing 5D chess. Right, keep your enemies close or keep your friends close and your enemies close. That's what he's doing. He's keeping her closer, and he's gonna cash in that last chip later on. Yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. If at least anything, I wanted an investigation into it more than what Comey stated.
Well, what did you think about the fact that the Democrats, though, are actually trying to lock him up?
I think it's 100% stupid. Do you see what you did? Unaddressed behaviors condone behavior. And the one thing about Republicans or conservatives is that they play nice all the time, right? So it's kind of like that. I was having a conversation with somebody in my personal life about somebody else. And this somebody else is dating somebody who is not a good person. And this person has a criminal history, all this stuff. And I told this one person, I said, you have this person's ear. Why are you condoning all of this? Why are you laying this all out? Yeah, oh no, I agree. I said, so the day that this person, you read that this person murdered that person, you're going to be good with yourself? So the point of that is, it's like every conservatives will be like, no, we're going to give liberals a pass because, they're going to come to the table respectfully. And you're dealing with psychotic people. how do you not see this coming when you don't play their tactics back in return? But then again, we did that with the whole 2020 election, where conservatives sat back on their asses and said, Daddy Trump is going to do it all himself. We don't need to do anything. And now we're going into, 4 years later for this next election, and the same thing's going to happen. The conservatives will not sit there and do what needs to be necessary. So ultimately, it's going to be the liberals will keep you give an inch, take a mile. They're going to take a continent is what they're going to do, because we're letting them.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Dominic Izzo. He's the host of the Rants of Izzo show, and you can watch him on the Spreely app. Are you on any other networks as well, Dominic?
No, we stream exclusively on Spreely. We are Spreely loyal. We don't like giving big tech our content.
Yeah, I get that for sure. And how can people tune into your show?
They can go to the Rants, RANTSOFIZZO, rantsofizzo.com, or they could download the Freedom Hub app for Spreely Media, and they could see everything we have there.
Okay. So Mike Pence is making some headlines this morning for saying Donald Trump has been walking away from conservative principles. When you look at the criticisms that Donald Trump has made of Ron DeSantis, for example, he appears to be running to the left of DeSantis on certain issues like Social Security and Medicare, and taking on Disney, for example, right? Going out and saying, that Ron DeSantis shouldn't be attacking Disney and stuff like that. I mean, does it surprise you to see Donald Trump taking those positions like that are, I guess you might consider anti-conservative?
I don't know. And the reason being is I don't know is because I think if you are not in the complete mold of conservative values, any teeny little step outside of that puts you as, oh, you're just left of center, right? So what I mean by that is I take a very clear stance on abortion, but I have a caveat, meaning no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if your kid's a mongoloid in the womb, dead in the womb, and it's got 4 arms or whatever. Absolutely not. Now, I take that stance because I want a black and white stance. And then my caveat is, well, I'm not a father. I'm not a parent. I'm not a woman. It's not my decision. I don't have to live with that decision, but I'm giving you a solid stance so that I can never be accused of somebody who does not take a hard stance on something. But the day, and I've always had this up online, right? But the day that I say, hey, we found out that the translation of the Bible from the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, means thou shalt not murder, right? And it doesn't mean thou shalt not kill, because sometimes, as we see in war, killing is necessary. So if I go, wait a second, okay, now if that's the case and you apply that to abortion, and you do have a very terminal issue inside of the mother, now it does become justifiable in the eyes of God. Okay, blah, blah. So that means, maybe there are circumstances. If I ever said that, which I just clearly just did, based on all of my other previous content, well, what's going to happen. Oh, he's a paid shill. He's controlled opposition. You're becoming liberal. So I think with Trump, no matter what he does, you got the Trump base, which 100% sees him as whatever they see him as. Any single comment, position, even if it is to oppose a political opponent, they're going to take advantage of that and saying, oh, he's moving away from the conservative party. So I think it's just a tactic. I really think it's just taking advantage of that.
That's an interesting point of view. What's your take on RFK Jr.?
I just know why. Listen, okay, so this is how dumb Americans are, right? Okay, so we have an issue. I didn't take the vaccine. I'm clearly convinced my mother was killed because of it. All this shit, blah, 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 blah. But that was my choice, right? I don't care who took the vaccine. I don't care who wore a mask. Do it. I'm libertarian. Just don't don't force shit down my throat. Why? So now we're coming into this, and that's his main platform: vaccine injuries, the whole pandemic, this and that. I don't know his issues on foreign policy. I don't know his issues on big tech. I don't know his issues on government control. I don't know any of that stuff. Not to mention the fact, are we this dumb as Americans where we broke away from the monarchy, right? King and queen, or did we? Because the Kennedys started that here in America. We also had Bush 1 and 2, Clinton 1 and 2, Trump, and then his kids, if anything. It's like, do we love these legacy imperial dictators, because Kennedy comes from the longest line of them. Ted Kennedy, Robert, his father, his uncle. I don't want a Kennedy. I don't.
Remember that like there were loyalists who actually actively worked against the American revolutionaries here. So I mean, there is a significant portion of the population which is all about king and crown and country and God and sovereignty, versus the more like American rebellious spirit that founded this nation, that built the Old West, the cowboy libertarianism that American conservatism has been tied to. But there definitely is an imperialist strain in the United States that loves the idea of continuity between monarchies, and they see that as more stable than the kind of like anarchic democratic processes that America popularized with the creation of our federal republic. So it's unfortunate, Dominic, that the people on our side don't have the courage of the convictions of the founding fathers, but we also don't have the brains that they did. I mean, Dominic, you're not a stupid person, but I mean, like intelligent people like yourselves falling for QAnon conspiracy theories are the people who are going out there and supporting RFK Jr. I mean, you understand their mindset more than others of what draws people into these cults.
Because it's an emotional tie, right? It's the most recent. Liberals have everything else. They have racism, transgenderism. Conservatives have, you took away my freedom. That's what they have. So it's 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. We really don't see masks or mandate crap anymore, but that's what they have. Conservatives on this issue of the pandemic are the girlfriend who is so pissed at what her ex-boyfriend did, so she brings it into every single relationship then on out and punishes the guy that she's with now. That's what they're doing. So it's like, this is, if you put Kennedy in a debate with anybody else, I think he's going to be what's Aleppo? I think that's going to be his thing, because he has nothing else to talk about.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, we're glad to have you here. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button on whichever channel that you're watching us on this morning. We're grateful to have you here with us. I'm speaking to Dominic Izzo. He's the host of Rants of Izzo. You can follow him on the Spreely app. That's the Speak Freely app. You can watch you can download that app on any of your mobile devices. And of course, we are streaming live right now on Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku, courtesy of the Spreely app, which we're super grateful for. So RFK, so one of our listeners right now, LB Struger, she says vaccines are not RFK's main platform. He specifically said that. Interviews keep bringing it up because of his work, but his main running principle is the totalitarian overreach of the Democrats. There probably are a lot of people supporting him for that reason, Dominic.
Which was what? It was stem from vaccines, pandemic, and mask mandates. You wouldn't know who Robert F. Kennedy was if that isn't where he started. So you're throwing in, it could be anything. It could be if the gas stove was bigger than anything else, and we're going to remove all gas products, you're going to go to electric cars, and he was speaking about that, it would fall under government totalitarianism. So I get that. But no, it was all because of the pandemic, masks, and vaccines.
Yeah, but he was right about a lot of those things when it came to COVID-19, and that matters. What I was talking about with my friend John Miltimore earlier on the RFK question is that probably a lot of the desire to support him is coming from a place of desperation, wouldn't you say, Dominic? I mean, people are so tired of these choices that are being foisted on us. I mean, when you look at the polls, they show that people are sick of Biden versus Trump. I mean, they're looking for any alternative they can, and he really just seems to be the only closest viable anti-establishment alternative that has popped up.
I don't know. I do not know his politics very well. I've only seen a couple interviews with him, but Vivek Ramaswamy, I want to find out more about this man. That is somebody who I honestly think he's just intelligent, and he is poignant on everything. He took on Don Lemon and smoked the shit out of Don Lemon. That's a man I want to see, because he's not coming from a place of a topical emotional argument, right? If anybody comes at government overreach, government authoritarianism, whatever, it's going to be him. And that's who I want to see a little bit more of the media exposing lately, meaning give more exposure.
Yeah, John Knox reminds us over in the live stream. He says that RFK Jr. wanted to extend lock. Excuse me. RFK Jr. wanted to extend the lockdowns to save the environment from climate change. Yeah, we all forget. Don't forget about that one. Dominic, you like Vivek Ramaswamy? Some people are saying that he's really just doing this to try and get an endorsement from Donald Trump to run for the Senate in Ohio. Your thoughts?
100%. Well, why would you not use that tactic? And all these guys, you have everybody who's in a position, if they know, like if you're going to run for president as a conservative, you know that Trump still outweighs everybody. Pence going on Chuck Todd's show is not going to gain any support from the left to go that. And it's sure as heck going to bury him when it comes down to conservatives, right? Because so many people still think that he bombed on January 6th without overturning the electoral college votes. No, I think that anybody who is running for office against Trump, it's just I'm going to strive for the top because I know when I default, I'm going to land somewhere well. And I have no problem with that because that's politics games. But, I mean, when I ran for office, I ran for Cook County Sheriff out here in Chicago with zero political experience. I was a cop, sheriff, second largest county in the nation. Everybody said, why don't you start with something smaller on a local level? I said, no, I'm going to go for the biggest possible position in the county. Because A, it was a learning experience. B, it got me some exposure to politics, all this. And yeah, if I was going to stay in the politics game, everybody does it out here in Chicago. It's like you go for the mayor, you go for X and Y, and then you fall back on something else. So I see them doing that, and it doesn't bother me because that's a game.
Yeah, that's why people are like, Austin, why are you running for president of the United States as a libertarian? I'm like, well, let's be honest. Running for dog catcher as a libertarian probably not going to get me anywhere.
Right.
Dominic, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Yeah, after listening to your commercial for Coolidge, I think that's great. I think what we need is a Trump-Pence debate, but we need it in that transatlantic dialogue where they're just going, well, the modern Negro comes in for the vote today here with Lucky Strike cigarette. I think that's what we need to have. Make it more entertaining, televise it, and then whoever wins gets my vote.
Keep cool with Coolidge and make America great again with Dominic Izzo on the Rants of Izzo show.
Oh boy, come in here and wash your filthy little colored hands.
Brought to you by Lucky Strikes.
Dominic, people can follow you on the Spreely app as well as Rants of Izzo on Twitter. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
No, guys, make sure you support Austin's fantastic show. If you're not sharing this, if you're not tithing your money to his success and continuing this show, if you are not showing him the proper love, you are dead to all of us.
I appreciate that very much, Dominic
Izzo,
and host of Rants of Izzo. Thanks for getting up early and being so generous with your time, Dominic. Great interview as
always.
Have a great
day.
We'll talk to you again real soon. That's Dominic Izzo. What do you think of Dominic? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Exactly. You need to listen to Dominic Izzo, right? Support AP for Liberty. I've got to ask you for a favor. Why don't you check out the AP for Liberty shop today? It's a great way to help support the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Right now, all of our 4th of July collection is 15% off. Check out apforlibertyshop.com. Just so you know, there's a 15% off coupon that you can use for anything in the store as well, but you have to sign up with your email address on the coupon pop-up that pops up while you go to the website. If you haven't visited the website before, you're going to see a pop-up. Don't close it. Type your email address in there and you will get emailed the code that you can use to get 15% off everything in the store. But just so you know, all of our 4th of July collection is automatically 15% off right now. So visit it right now at apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com. Because we've only got 10 minutes left, I'm not going to go to a commercial break. I'm going to go to my next story, which I had a lot of fun with. Usually whenever we leave the show, we like to leave with a kicker story, which is, silly, funny, fun kind of topics before you can go. Brands getting owned, 20 companies that got roasted for their social media fails. And of course, since it's from the internet, you can expect there'll be a healthy dose of leftism installed in this one. But some of these things are actually really funny. It's of brands who have gotten owned on Twitter, right? It's a great place to promote your business online, but there, of course, is always the possible backlash, not just kind of Bud Light like kinds of backlashes, but just the fact that you can get owned. There's a new Twitter account called Brands Owned, right, which finds instances of unrequited love online and shares it on their page for our amusement. The first one listed right down here is BP saying the first step to reducing your emissions is to know where you stand, find out your carbon footprint with our new calculator, and share your pledge today, talking about the things that get people all fired up on the environmental side of things. I like this tweet by Andrew Henderson. I pledge not to spill 4.9 million barrels of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. Well, we appreciate that, Andrew. Although, if you all remember back during COVID, they were giving that stuff away. Remember when you could go down to like the Gulf of Mexico, and if you were able to get a tanker in there, they would actually pay you to take oil away? God, don't you wish you would have done that back in the day? Thank you to Cheeky Mayor for dropping the link to my Coolidge Kids book, by the way. I appreciate that one. All right, next on the list of things for brands that got roasted on Twitter. Let's take a look here. Spare a thought for the billions of people who will never exist. This was a Business Week article. As world population growth slows, the never conceived are the ultimate forgotten ones. And then underneath that, somebody says, capitalists so desperate for more people to abuse, they've turned to existentialism. Give them a boo on that one. Vex Werewolf there. You can tell that he's a commie SOB, right? Because that's anti-natalism. What is natalism? Well, it's the group of people who believes in, human birthing, right? The idea that you ought to be having kids, that we ought to try and avoid the demographic depopulation of the world. But anti-natalists are people who think that humans are called terrible and evil and the cause of all climate change and everything bad in the world. But I consider myself a natalist, not an anti-natalist. All right. This next one really made me laugh. Universal Pictures tweeted a question to their audience. You wake up as the new head of Universal Pictures. What would you do? This one I love. Type 4 Hair says, first, I'd immediately stop hiring college classmates and kids of people who work for me who have no discernible talent whatsoever, but just happen to be related to someone who does. Then I'd hire actual creatives instead of jacking creative ideas from people on the internet. Let's give her a round of applause. Somebody needs to hire her in Hollywood. I agree, right? Hollywood has gotten terrible lately. All right, number 4 on this list. We got to get through this. We're getting down to the wire. She says, for my wheelchair, what's your number 1 travel goal this year? Asked Delta Airlines. She says, for my wheelchair not to be broken in transit next time I get off a plane. Ooh, ouch. You never like that. All right, IKEA. Says Alex is smiling back, says IKEA bestie, you forgot to edit the reflection. Yeah, you can see that IKEA actually dropped in a flag there, right there. They forgot to edit the reflection of the flag there for their pride. Are they actually just virtue signaling there? You never know. Simu Lu, right? So we always believed in you, me laughing the people who thought we'd flop. We always believed in you, Simu Lu. And if being a superhero doesn't work out, our door is always open. From iStock photos there. Is the door open to share in the hundreds of thousands of dollars you made off those photos? Because I was paid $100. Now listen, Simu Lu, if you were an actor or a model who got paid for your photography, for photos that were taken of you as stock photos, Simu, right there, here he is, right? Then you signed a release form for your likeness on these images, right? He says, we always believed in you, Simu Lu. So apparently iStock Photos tagged the guy who was in the photos. And he's mad because they made hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all you did was let somebody take a picture of your handsome face. I mean, come on. That's capitalism for you. Delta tweeted, the world has changed, but our commitment to connecting you to the people and places that matter most never will. Someone showed a picture of their phone. Time on phone waiting for an agent. 5 hours to speak to somebody over at Delta. Have you ever tried to get those airlines on the phone? Good God. Share your experience in the comments below with trying to get somebody in the airlines on the phone, because I just don't do that. I would never even try. Brands getting owned. First thing you think of when you see this logo of Domino's Pizza. Oh my God, what the hell is that over there on the right? I have no idea. Are you drinking from a cow's boobs this National Boob Day? Lovely. So the company that kidnaps puppies is trying to lecture us on drinking milk. Fascinating. All right, PETA. Good God. All right. If you enjoy the Wake Up America show, you can support us by visiting ap4libertyshop.com. But what I would really like to ask for you all today is to join me in helping to build the new generation of liberty in a documentary, my first feature-length documentary called Bleed American, the Battle of Athens. I'll be traveling to Athens, Tennessee at the end of next month, and I'd like to ask for you to donate generously to this campaign. I'm trying to raise $10,000 before the end of next month. We're about almost a third of the way there. Bleed America in the Battle of Athens will tell the story of World War II veterans who fought for democracy overseas, and when they got home, they found that they had lost it. When their local Democrats, the Cantrell machine, took the votes, the ballots, and put them in the local jail to count them in secret, the World War II veterans locked and loaded and laid siege to the jail in the first successful armed rebellion since the American Revolution. I'm going to go down there to a festival that commemorates the event and to do some recording as well as some drone footage and do interviews of people who are connected to the families in town. It's going to be a great event, and you can be a part of it and get your name in the credits by making a generous donation today to Bleed America in the Battle of Athens. The link is at givesendgo.com, which is a Christian fundraising site that has generously hosted us and is giving us 100% of the profits. So visit givesendgo.com today and help us spread the message of economic freedom, personal liberty, and armed rebellion. It's an insurrection. All right, hope you had a great day and a great Father's Day. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.